Welcome to Social Emotional Learning with FactCite Biographies. I'm glad you could join us. Let's begin with an introduction. My name is Sheila Tobin-Kavoris. I'm FactCite's consulting librarian and a longtime user of FactCite databases with my own students. Today's session will introduce role models who demonstrated bravery or courage, set goals, and dealt with disappointment or overcame obstacles. The objective of this introduction to individuals who demonstrated one of these qualities of social emotional learning is to allow students an opportunity to reflect on that quality and how it relates to their own lives. Along with this overview of some of our FactCite biographies that support SEL, we'll provide you with activities to encourage reflection on what it means to show courage, the importance of setting goals, and learning to deal with disappointment and obstacles. FactCite has a whole host of wonderful databases on a variety of topics. These include 5 biography databases, which were favorites among my students. FactCite 123 contains 13 modules, including biographies, and they're written at the simplest reading level of all of our databases. Biography for Beginners is written at about a 4th grade reading level and contains 800 biographies of historic and contemporary figures. In Sports Champions, you'll find lots of examples of goal setting and overcoming obstacles. We have 800 biographies of historic and contemporary athletes written at about a 5th grade reading level. Shapers of Society, written at a 6th grade level, contains biographies of 100 notable people who shaped our world, from Moses to Steve Jobs. U.S. and World biographies are also at a 6th grade level and contain about 10,000 biographies of historic and contemporary figures from around the world. Here's how to get the most from this presentation. Accompanying the video are resources, such as lists of historical figures from each SEL attribute, which you can share with students to generate interest and to guide research. Also included are activities for students such as choice boards. The resources will be associated with this recording, but you can always email FactCite to request materials. Let's get started. Many of the articles in FactCite's biography databases describe people demonstrating bravery or courage. Let's talk about just a few examples. In FactCite 123, you'll find Amelia Earhart, who was the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic. And you can see that FactCite 123 is at a simpler reading level. It also includes audio read-along for those students who would benefit from that support. Students can view articles in any FactCite database in the page-by-page format. This one has 7 pages, or up at the top, they can toggle to read the entire article as one page. And they can just scroll. Now, if your subscription includes Biography for Beginners, you'll see Step Up to a Reading Challenge at the bottom, which will link to an article at a higher reading level on the same subject. Biography for Beginners has an article on Malala Yousafzai, who defied the Taliban and fought for the right to go to school, not only for girls in her home country of Pakistan, but for every child. 2 examples from U.S. and World biographies are Todd Beamer, one of the brave passengers on United Airlines Flight 93, who most likely saved hundreds of lives on the ground by confronting the hijackers, and Benjamin O. Davis, Jr., a Tuskegee Airman and the first African-American general in the U.S. Air Force. Shapers of Society has an article on Nelson Mandela, who fought to change apartheid laws, suffered imprisonment, and eventually became the first Black president of South Africa. All the articles in Shapers of Society include primary source documents in addition to the biography, as well as maps and charts that click to open. In addition to these engaging articles, FactCite provides resources for teachers and students, which accompany this video. Here's a list of people who demonstrated courage arranged by category. Students can explore the list and click on any name to read the article. We also have a choice board to reinforce the concept of bravery and encourage reflection, with a variety of activities for students to choose from. For example, students could reflect on someone from their own life that they know who's demonstrated courage and can create a bravery badge to recognize. Another option would be using artistic ability to design a book cover for the biography of the person that they read about. So this gives students a chance to use another modality. And still another is describing a song or a piece of music that the student feels represents bravery or courage. Each of those has a hyperlink to a template for the book cover and for recording their thoughts on the lyrics. So there are really many different ways that students can be encouraged to reflect on their reading and to connect their reading to events in their own lives, to reinforce these social emotional learning topics that are introduced through these articles. The next SEL topic we'll look at is the importance of setting goals. In FactCite 123, we have an article on Sidney Poitier. He came to the United States from the Bahamas, and at his first audition, he was unsuccessful due to his heavy accent and difficulty reading the script. He was even mocked by the director. He set the goal of improving his pronunciation and reading, and he made a plan to accomplish that goal by getting a job as a janitor to pay for the tutor. Also, in FactCite 123, we have Jane Goodall, the famous anthropologist who studied chimpanzees. She made a goal of going to Africa after reading the book Dr. Dolittle. In the Biography for Beginners article about Katie Ledecky, Olympic swimming champion, she tells about how she started as a little girl writing down her goals and then working to achieve them. Biography for Beginners also has an article about Ernest Shackleton, an explorer of the Arctic region who led expeditions to Antarctica. Shapers of Society has an article about Paul Robeson, whose parents taught him to set high goals. Students will learn that he excelled at nearly everything he tried. Let's talk about activities to reinforce and reflect on goal setting. Goal setting is such an important topic for our students, and connecting their reading and their study to activities that nurture that desire for goal setting and that ability to do some goal setting in their own lives is so important. So teachers can allow students certainly to brainstorm their own goals. And for example, if a student's goal is to travel, it would be easy for even younger students to find a map or a picture of the place that they'd like to visit, and they can add a picture of themselves at that location. They can make a caption, date the goal for their visit. Another goal might be developing a habit or a skill. And so students can create a journal and track progress toward that goal. And they can record their progress and give themselves little stickers or other types of rewards as they make progress toward that goal. Maybe students have a goal to be kinder to others. That could even be a class goal or a school goal. One thing students can do is to write a note to someone who might be in need of encouragement or cheering up. Students can be given a graphic organizer shaped like maybe a thermometer or a set of stairs, and they can map out different steps along the way to achieving their goal. And they can kind of color in the thermometer or mark off little footprints along the steps of the stairs, indicating each step along the way that they have achieved in working toward their goal. Our next areas of focus are the related topics of dealing with disappointment and overcoming obstacles, two very important topics for our students. Now, Walt Disney is an excellent example because he was faced with disappointment when Disneyland first opened. It was an extremely hot day. The fountains burst, the asphalt melted and stuck to people's shoes. But Walt didn't let that discourage him. He really believed he had a great idea and that these were just a few things that needed improvement. He knew that Disneyland would be a great place for families to visit. In Biography for Beginners, we learn that puppeteer Carol Spinney was at a point where he thought his career was just going nowhere. But he still went to a puppeteers convention. There he met Jim Henson, and the rest is history. Spinney brought Big Bird and Oscar the Grouch to life on Sesame Street for nearly 50 years. I have two examples of football players from sports champions. One is Tom Brady and one is Aaron Rodgers. And they both faced disappointment when it came to the NFL draft. Tom Brady in 2000 and Rodgers in 2005, yet both went on to become outstanding football players in the NFL. Overcoming obstacles is intimately related with the topic of dealing with disappointment. And we have loads of articles that can help students to connect to that topic of overcoming obstacles. In FactCite 123, we have an article on Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He had a somewhat of an unstable home life. He was a very angry teen who got into trouble, and he was even arrested. But he was encouraged to participate in sports. And this was what helped him overcome his frustration, make some new friends, and stay out of trouble. In Biography for Beginners, we have Aung San Suu Kyi, who fought for democracy in Burma, also called Myanmar. Her struggle included living for years under house arrest, but she never gave up. In fact, she was the winner of the Nobel Peace Prize in 1991. Also in Biography for Beginners, we have an article on Misty Copeland, who was the first African-American prima ballerina with the American Ballet Theater. Her family life, too, was unstable, yet she devoted herself to her ballet, even to the point of staying with her ballet teacher when her family moved away from that town. Sports Champions has an article about Susan Butcher, a sled dog racer in Alaska. Students really connect to this story. In 1985, Susan was the favorite to win the Iditarod, but a moose got entangled in her dog's harness. 17 dogs were injured and 3 of the dogs died. So Susan had to withdraw from the race. She didn't give up, though, and that's the key when we talk about overcoming obstacles. She was determined to come back and win the race in 1986. So she trained her dogs throughout the summer with a wheeled cart in place of a sled because there was not enough snow. So how determined is that? Something that the students really connect to. Susan and her dogs went on to win the Iditarod for the next 2 years in a row. Some activities to reinforce and reflect on dealing with disappointment or overcoming obstacles include writing a poem about how things will be better tomorrow. Another option is for students to read a biography of their choice, then take a sheet of paper and fold it in half. On the left, they can list disappointments or obstacles the person faced, and on the right, how they dealt with those obstacles. Another resource that we're providing to you is, again, as we did with the other topics, a list of people from FactCite databases who fit this particular social emotional learning attribute or this topic of dealing with disappointment and overcoming obstacles. And the list is divided by category, so students can look for a category of interest, such as presidents or what have you. And students need only to click on the name and they will be directed directly to the article. Once again, we'll provide you with a choice board, this one for the overcoming obstacles, dealing with disappointment topic. And choice boards can be used in a variety of ways. So this can be an optional activity, or it can be assigned. Students can be assigned one activity or multiple activities. One simple choice is creating a slideshow about the person the student read about. And of course, the slideshow would focus on how that person handled challenges. Another option, which would connect to the student's own life, is having the student write about a time that they overcame an obstacle or faced disappointment themselves. In my school, students love to make videos. So I always include an option for making a video. In this case, students would make a video about how the person they read about overcame an obstacle or a challenge. They can also create a video about how they themselves have overcome a challenge. If you're not experienced with video making, don't let this intimidate you. There are so many platforms for making quick and easy videos. There were paid platforms and free platforms. Students can just use the camera on their iPad or on their Chromebook or on their phone if those are allowed in your schools. Believe me, they'll go wild. There are green screen options as well that can be done very simply. And another option is for students to complete a poster about the person that they studied. And again, you see the word poster is blue. It's a hyperlink to a template for them to fill in a sort of a graphic organizer that has a place for putting a picture that they can copy and paste from FactCite. They have the rights to copy and paste any of those images, and the attribution is attached. And then they can fill out some information about the person and about how the person faced challenges. In summary, in today's webinar, we've provided lists of biographies to inspire on the topics we discussed today: bravery and courage, setting goals, dealing with disappointment, and overcoming obstacles. In addition, we've provided activities to share that will help students with self-reflection and the development of these attributes. I'd also like to take this opportunity to encourage you again to explore these and other resources in FactCite's Tips for Teachers. And I'm going to show you where to find that if you're not familiar. I'm on the home page and I'm scrolling down to the bottom. And here you see some handy tools, and Tips for Teachers is right here. And this is really a little treasure trove of materials that you can access and use immediately with your students. So these have a quick turnaround. You can be using them tomorrow. For example, here's teacher resources by subject area. And so you can just explore, and you can see there are downloadable items on different topics. Here's an argument opinion writing activity worksheet, which I've used with in conjunction with my ELA teachers. I've also done the mythology trading cards. There's so many great activities. The African American Biography Report is often used during Black History Month. And the Explorers Report is another popular activity. And if you notice down here, we have the Virginia Standards of Learning for History and Social Science, and that's clickable. You have a download of FactCite resources that support the Virginia state standards. And looking back at Tips for Teachers again, you can also take a look at the Focus On section. And this is, again, downloadable documents with materials. For example, if you were studying colonial life, and there would be activities there, voting, artists, all sorts of things. So this is something I really want to recommend users to take the time to peruse a little bit. FactCite 123 and FactCite Lingo have their own section for activities and lesson plans for some of our younger students. This is really a section you don't want to miss, and there are additional resources that FactCite provides for you. At FactCite, we're always here to help. You can request a trial to any of these FactCite databases modeled here today, or any FactCite database. So use the email attached here. FactCite welcomes your feedback, questions, comments, and suggestions. So at any time, you can email, and also on each article, there's an opportunity to send a comment. We welcome your feedback, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thanks for joining us today.